My name is Chad Hawkins. I'm a first degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I'm also in a journey of completely changing the man that I am in my life because it's crucial that I do this for many reasons, but the main reason is that I don't want to continue to be the same man in every area of my life throughout my entire life. If I'm not constantly challenging myself or constantly trying to find ways to be reborn essentially inside of many different areas of my life, then I find myself just existing. And that's one area that I've never wanted to do is just constantly exist as the same human being. When I find a trend of me being the same person for a long period of time, I start asking myself like what's going on? How are we going to get to the next level in our life? So, if you're following me just for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu content, that's perfectly okay. This video is not going to be necessarily about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So if this is not your thing, then I encourage you to go to the next video. And I'm going to have many videos on techniques, many videos on different content on Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, teaching seminars, running our mastery classes, whatever it is. I'll make it very obvious so that you guys know and you can follow my content and my technique and, go from there. But as far as this video, this is my personal area of my life and kind of different things that I've been going through, ups and downs. And it's funny because I think so many times in life today, it's easy to hide. It's easy to exist as the same human being and it's easy to hide because we allow so many outside influences around us to hold us down, to control us, right? There's a lot of things in our lives that carry power over us or put essentially rocks in our boots or weight on our shoulders. And that weight really can hold us down almost to the point where we're just stuck and we're afraid. And as I go through these motions, I realize more and more that all of these things are things that I've allowed to control me. And that's it's scary to get to that point and realize that because once you get to that point, you know that a change has to be made. You know that a shift has to take place. And it's easier to just stay in the same frame. It's easier to stay in the same place and do the same thing and say, this is working, so why do I need to change? And it's funny because on these, I'll go in this direction where everything's going well, right? I'm investing into Mandy, I'm investing into Lucy, my family, my students. I'm doing these motions and having successful results. And then before I know it, I'll almost be existing again, doing the same motions. And then before I know it, I will get this conversation from Mandy where it's like, I don't feel connected. And that as a man is one of the hardest things to understand and accept when your significant other comes to you and says, I don't feel connected. So so much of me, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else, but so much of who I am feels attacked and feels triggered when I hear these words. And it's insanely hard to take your significant others or anybody that you care about that you want to show up and you want to make them know that you care and you want them to love you and desire you and look up to you and see you as a man. When they deliver this message to you, it's so hard to receive that message and then be able to say, okay, well, how do we get connected? For me, it's like I felt attacked, I feel triggered, and I want to fight back. And it's funny. It's funny that in our lives, I keep telling my daughter this, we get two decisions. We get two ways that we're going to show up to every situation in our life. We can make it the easy way, the kind way, the absorbing that information and allowing that person to have space that they can speak their truth and you receive it, and then we work through it, and whether we agree or don't agree at the end of that, that we both have our ability to speak our truth and to have a safe place. Or we can shut it down, attack it, control it, destroy it, and completely make that person hide. And the truth is, a majority of people in my life have made me hide my truth. They've made me sit in fear. They've made me hide. And there's many things that I remember as I've come up in my life, people that I have looked up to, coaches, mentors, different people that I've trusted and believed in, that I went to them for guidance, and I listened to them and I listened to their place and them speak. And even then, they made me afraid of my truth. Even then, they made me afraid to actually just be myself and speak the way that I want to speak, in fear of their criticism or judgment. And even as I'm rebuilding my gyms, rebuilding myself, and rebuilding my family in these last, really in this last year, but it started in December of 2022 is when it started. It was easier to hide and not stand up for myself, just because of fear of criticism and fear of judgment and fear of not getting their approval. And I realized that, like, so many areas of my life and so many people that I've dealt with operate under this whatever you want to call it, under this manner. And it's sad because the reality is that we should all be able to speak our truth. We should all be able to say how we're feeling, what we're thinking, what's going on in our mind, and not and it doesn't have to line up. It doesn't have to fit in your box or my box. That we can all get to, like, essentially the rawness of who we are as humans. And for me, I hid my faith and what I believed for a decade, essentially, because of the environment that I was in. And it's funny because the more that you come out of these situations and these places that you're hiding from, the more truth that you begin to see. So not only did I hide my faith for over a decade, I also didn't show up for Mandy and my family the way that I should be showing up for over a decade. And before I completely would shut Mandy down from speaking her truth, speaking what she wanted to say, and hearing what she was saying for a decade. And that's such a hard thing to understand and to process as a man, to come back from years and years and years of operating under a certain way, thinking as a certain way, acting what you believe is a man, essentially, and a significant other, and then realizing that, like, none of that was true. But in that moment, you thought it was true. And it kind of leads me into this story that in the last couple of weeks, I have really fallen into this pit inside of my life. And there's many different pits. I didn't understand this 2 years ago when I first started this journey. Like, just the ideas of how to process things, how to show up for things, how to change the direction that I'm going. So, to me, I didn't fully understand what a pit really was until recently. And it's like, often in my life, I'll be going along and things will be good. Things with my family will be good. Things with my business will be good. Relationships will be good. And the hype, the momentum, the success, whatever, can carry you through so many dark periods of your life. It's funny. But once those things stop and you sit down, it's amazing how you're like, wow, I'm I didn't even see that I was existing and operating inside this pit essentially. And what I mean by that is I got back on track. The Bible study group that I've been a part of every week has been an incredible journey to just like not even the process of just studying the Word of God, but like the process of how am I showing up in my family? How am I showing up in my business? How am I seeking truth? And am I hiding from situations, or am I, facing those situations and growing from them? And that's a hard thing to do because for a majority of my life, I've been terrified of confrontation. For a majority of my life, I have wanted to hide from any confrontation, hide from any situation that seems difficult, and just go a different direction. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at any means at this currently, because this is one thing that I'm going to have to work on. This is years of trauma that I've experienced from growing up as a child that has made me afraid of confrontation and made me afraid of believing in myself. And it's nobody's fault. Now that I'm a father, I realize how much things that I have done to Lucy and not even realized in the moment. I think they're good things. In the moment, I think I'm guiding her and helping her and trying to influence her and give her good insight. And I'm not even realizing that I'm actually kind of maybe scarring her or shutting her down from the human that she's becoming. So that's a big shift I've been trying to make. And I fell into this pit. We were on a good path. We found a church that we enjoyed going to. We enjoyed the service, we enjoyed the message. The family enjoyed it. I was doing my daily Bible studies. Everything was going along very well. I was finding ways to date Mandy more and more often and be more connected with her and buy her cards or get her small gifts or send her messages. Spending more time trying to connect with Lucy and listening to what she's going through and trying to just sit there and listen to the things that she's processing in her life and through school. And being connected in all these things and watching them grow, right? Being connected more with my students, being more present with my students, hearing some of the things and the experiences they're having. The thing that I took away from today's message and today's Bible study was like that I need to have the ability to allow myself to hold space so that Mandy and Lucy, my family, and my students can openly come to me and want to speak with me. And not that I would just, the old me always wanted to have the right thing to say, right? It was like, that's what being a leader is. That's what being a man is. That's what being a father is you're saying whatever you're wanting to say. And then at the end of it, I'm not going to really receive any of it. I'm not going to really listen to any of it. I'm not going to change any of it, but I'm going to tell you what you should do and how you should do it or what's right or what's wrong. And that's essentially how I spent my entire life. And it was funny because I was reading a book the other day and it called it The Lone Ranger, the Lone Ranger leadership. And I led my entire life with that mentality as the Lone Ranger leader. And I'm learning more and more that I have to be willing to open up and talk. I have to be willing to be vulnerable. I have to be okay with not having all the answers. I have to be okay with listening to other people and allowing them to feel safe. That's the best way that we're all going to grow. So I'm in this pit and Mandy comes to me and, she's saying, I'm not feeling connected. And the first thing that I do is, of course, go on the defense. The first thing that I do is do all the same patterns that I've done my entire life, which is try to shut her down, try to control her, try to justify myself and what I've been doing and how hard I've been working to try to accomplish these things, and essentially, like, what is she doing? How is she showing up? So defend myself and attack back. And whether I'm right or wrong in what I'm saying, whether I have a point or I don't have a point, essentially what I'm doing is I'm shutting this woman off with any desire to want to connect with me. Essentially, I'm shutting her down and not allowing her to feel safe and not allowing her to feel heard and not allowing her to come to me and us work together as a team so that we can connect and grow ourselves and grow our family. The way that I should be doing it, I'm realizing, is incorrect. But it's funny because it's so hard in the moment to change old habits. And that's where we end up in these pits. And I didn't understand it. So I fell off my Bible studies, my daily Bible studies. I fell off for a few weeks going to my weekly Bible study group. And I kind of found myself just in this dark place, just running the motions and existing again. And a lot of it has been having to switch teams, right? Like, I, in my mind, had the plan that in my business, I was going to stay with one team for my entire career, and that me and this team would rise to great levels in the sport and accomplish incredible things. And I believed in a vision at one time that, sadly, it came to a point where I didn't believe in that vision and I didn't believe in what was taking place anymore. But unfortunately, I was still connected. I was bonded to this idea that wasn't present anymore. But it was so hard to let go and to walk away. It took years of different things and different mind shifts and reframing for me to finally get to a place that I said, I have to change what's taking place in my life. And I made that shift. And it's still never going to be easy. Every day I'm having to reevaluate these different things in my life and fix them and correct them. And that's going to be every day of my life. I don't I don't know if that gets easier or if there gets to a point where it makes sense. And some days it's like you see yourself and you see the success that you get from putting the work in, and then other days it feels like you're not getting anywhere, that you're so defeated and you can't accomplish anything, and your relationship's not going to work and your business isn't going to work. And this roller coaster, it's hilarious. I mean, that's the only thing I can say, because I don't know how else it would be, and I don't know how else anybody else's life is. I can only speak for myself. But I can tell you this, today I did the Bible study. The last couple of days, Mandy and I have connected better in our relationship. Lucy and I's relationship has been, more connected, more playful. Like, she has been more open to speak to me. She's been getting better grades in school. She's been getting better reports. So it's amazing as a man that so often we hide behind our significant others and we put them on the front lines of our battles and just hope that they will take care of everything and fix everything. And it's weird as a man that we do that we will hide behind our significant other, or we'll hide behind our friends, or whatever that we're hiding behind, because we're so afraid to actually stand up and face what we need to face. So for me, there's a lot of times in my life that I fall into these pits and I hide from certain situations because I don't want to face them, because life seems so overwhelming and it seems so impossible to come back from whatever it is that we're stuck in. But the one thing that I can tell you is, in the last 2 years, I have learned that as I hit these pits and as I fall down and I go through this darkness, essentially, that you have to embrace that part of the journey. That part of the journey is what is allowing you to be reborn and see that how you're showing up or what you're doing in your life is not correct. So I noticed a lot of my students, the energy and the momentum that they were showing up in the mats was a lot because of the way that I essentially had one foot in and one foot out on the team that I was on. I noticed that the disconnect was taking place inside of my academies because of personalities and behaviors that were taking place around my gym. And I had to fix these things. And it was hard because some of these relationships, some of these friendships feel important and you don't want to lose them. But you don't realize sometimes how toxic things really are until you actually start to face them. So there's many pits that I'm constantly falling in. There was a time that I was terrified to show up to my own business, my own mats, because of certain students that were on the mats and the way that they were acting and the behaviors that they were displaying. But me being a leader, scared of confrontation, scared to stand up and tell a grown man what to do essentially and how to show up differently, I allowed that toxic behavior to grow and grow and grow until it became something that was such a nightmare that it fixed itself. And again, all of these things I'm learning, all of these things I'm growing from. My business, being a practitioner, being a competitor, being a family man, being there for Mandy, like all these different areas of my life, I'm going to have success in and I'm going to have failure in. And I think often we immediately see some type of failure and it's like our entire world can fall apart. When in reality, all we have to do is realize the pit that we're in and then take that moment inside of that darkness to figure out what's going on and then begin to seek the light and climb from that pit. So I've made massive adjustments inside myself in the last couple of years. I've made massive adjustments inside my connection with God in the last couple of years. I've made adjustments with Mandy, with Lucy, with people in my lives, with my students. One of the coolest things last night was one of my students came up to me after class and he shook my hand and he said, "Hey, thank you for being there for me the other day. Thank you for listening to me and thank you for giving me that advice for me to show back up differently in my family." You see, for 10 years, I gave the wrong advice. For 10 years, I gave the wrong advice to so many men. And now as I see those men, sometimes I feel bad because I know that I had a lot of influential power on how they're living their lives today and how they're showing up inside their families and inside themselves. And I know that it's a result of the way that I delivered the message that I delivered 10 years ago. So even though right now, whatever you're doing in your lives, whatever you're trying to do to shift yourself and become a better person, and you're getting discouraged because you're not feeling like you're seeing the results, okay? Just understand that the results that you're pouring in right now are going to happen in a year, are going to happen in 2 years, are going to happen in 10 years. They might happen in 20 years. And I know that can be like really discouraging and really hard to accept. But I promise you that if you can stay consistent and you can stay seeking how to show up differently inside your life and evaluating yourself and not just existing in the same frame, you will get different results, okay? And maybe you like the situation that you're in. Maybe everything's great for you, and or maybe you're just completely asleep and it doesn't matter to you. There was a time in my life that I was completely asleep and nothing mattered to me. I didn't care about anybody or anything except essentially myself. Myself, where I was going, what I was doing, and my own success. It's all I really operated as. And it came to a point where my entire world was falling apart. That the life that I was living and the mental state that I was living were completely two different things. I was operating as completely two different humans, and I was existing. And that was like one of the darkest places that I could have ever existed within. And I thought everything was good. And it wasn't until that I kind of like peeled all that back and started to really evaluate the situation that I realized that something had to change. So that's the one thing that I'm trying to do differently is hold space to actually receive what people are saying inside my life. To be there for the people that are saying, hey, I'm not feeling connected. To listen, to receive, to find whatever pits that I'm falling into and not to be afraid of them, not to run away and be afraid of failure, but to embrace each one of those moments and to grow from them. So I encourage you that if there is something inside your life right now that you're struggling with, that you find a way to accept it, be okay with it, evaluate it, and then find out what you need to start doing or stop doing to fix that situation. And it's tough. It's going to be tough every day of your life. But here's the thing that I can tell you. Okay, once you free yourself, once you stop lying to yourself, once you start telling the truth to yourself, and really think about how you want to show up in these areas of your life, you'll start actually producing the fruit that you have been seeking your entire life. And it's easier said than done because we're going to have to do the work. So there's a lot of craziness going on right now. There's a lot of craziness going on, not only in my life, but in the world. And it's easy for everything to get drowned out as we're listening to all the noise around us. Okay? But the one thing that I can tell you is if you focus on the areas that are very important and you remove the noise around you that doesn't elevate your life, that doesn't improve you, you're going to be more fulfilled in every area of your life. Okay? So it was insanely hard for me to shift as a man and receive the things that Mandy was telling me. It was insanely hard for me to realize that how I was showing up for Lucy and how I was showing up for my students and how I was just half-assing everything in my life, walking this fine little line and keeping everything just what seemed like balance, okay? You can only operate under that for so long before the entire weight of the world comes crashing down on your shoulders. And when that happens, you're going to have two choices, like I told my daughter. You're going to have the choice to shift and show up differently as a human being, or you're going to have the choice to make the blame game and the victim game and blame everybody else for why this exists and explain to everybody, and you're going to feel justified. And you know what? The answers you come up with are going to seem incredibly correct because you came up with them. It's really easy. Woe is me. It's their fault. Blah blah blah. I can play this game for the rest of my life and feel justified in what I'm saying. Okay? Especially with a lot of things that have taken place. Okay? Because here's the problem. It's not black and white. It's easy for you to justify why you're showing up or why things are happening or making an excuse for them instead of doing the first one and just changing the way you're showing up and turning over a new leaf essentially. So I just want you to take a moment to think about that because it's hard. It's one of the hardest things for me to do. It was so much easier for me to exist and operate under the same frame that I operated under for 38 years than to change. The change cost me so many relationships. The change cost me a lot of money. The change cost me a lot of stress, a lot of heartache, a lot of tears. It's not easy. It's never going to be easy. But the one thing that I encourage everybody that genuinely is watching this is not to be afraid to speak your truth and to be who you want to be. And the people that truly care about you and the people that see what you're saying will be in your life. And the people that don't will leave your life. But for many years, I held on to people that didn't truly want to be in my life for me. They wanted to be in my life for what I offered. They wanted to be in my life for what I could do for them. They wanted to be in my life for the conveniences of what was taking place. But they didn't want to be in my life because they truly loved me, because they truly supported me, because they truly believed in me. So eventually, you're going to have to make a decision, and you're going to have to stop walking with one foot in and one foot out, and you're going to have to believe in yourself, and you're going to have to climb out of the pit and take a stand. And that stand is scary, but when you take it, many things will burn around you, but it's really, really cool to see some of the relationships that have started because I burned down so many other things around me. The people that show up in my life now, the connections that I have with people now, the connections that I have with my family, the connection I have with God, the connection I have inside my business and with some of my students are more genuine and more pure than they have ever been in my entire life. So I encourage you to stand up, to believe in yourself, and to face this life and go the direction that you want to go, okay? But also don't be afraid to actually constantly evaluate what it is you need to do to grow. Don't operate and exist as the same human year in and year out. In 10 years, if you're the same person, something's wrong. Something needs to change, okay? So, one thing that I want to do is I want to spend more time trying to express what it is that I've gone through in my life and how these different pits have caused me to shift, to reframe, and to begin to rebuild myself. And I'm going to constantly keep trying to share this message. And like I said, if you're just looking for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on this channel, there's going to be plenty of that. But if you're looking to watch someone that's going to dive into the depths of darkness and light, essentially, right? My good and my bad, to see what I have gone through, to see the mistakes that I've made, to see the failures that I've had in my life that have got me to this point, then I definitely encourage you to follow these videos and this content. Send me a message if you have any questions. Send me a message if there's something you're struggling with or there's something that you're seeing that you're unsure about how to fix that. Because when we can combine together essentially and work through these problems and help each other to rise from the situations that we're currently sitting within, then all of our lives can get better. I can tell you this, I operated in my business under the one concept that one person got better, essentially. One person was allowed to get better, and everybody else had to kind of starve around them. And I never understood that because in my mind, this is what I can tell you. Everybody in your life should rise. Everybody around you should grow. Everybody that's showing up in your life should be finding success in the areas that they want to find success. And they shouldn't be afraid. So, if you're afraid showing up in your life right now, if somebody's gaining success and you're being drained of everything that you have and you're trying to feed a machine that will never feed you, you need to step away from those situations and evaluate your life. Because everybody in today's world should be able to grow and should be able to have success. And it shouldn't be scary and it shouldn't be something that you want to run from or hide from. It should feel healthy, and you should be able to speak truth at all times. So, I appreciate anybody that decided to watch this video, and I'm going to keep trying to hold myself accountable, right, to where I'm failing. That's all these videos are going to be for. They're not essentially for you, they're not essentially for anybody else. They're essentially for me to hopefully one day look back on and say, look, Chad, you're really screwing up right now. You're in this pit and you're not connecting with Mandy, and you're not connecting with your family, and you're not connecting with your students, and that's why your life is falling apart. So, this message is to hold me accountable, to constantly rebuild myself, and to constantly climb out of the darkness. So, I appreciate everybody that does subscribe to the channel, that is following the content. One thing besides not being good at confrontation is I have what I want to call imposter syndrome, I guess. I've never believed in myself. I've never believed that I have accomplished anything. I've never believed that I'm good enough. And that goes back from years and years of the way that I came up in my life. And I'm not going to blame anybody. It's not anybody's fault. It's my responsibility as a man to provide for my family, to protect my family, to build my businesses. It's my job as a man to figure out my problems and figure out my mistakes and to figure out why I'm not improving in these areas. So the goal for me is I'm going to research imposter syndrome. I'm going to study the book that I just purchased today, and I'm constantly just trying to find the areas that I'm failing as a man, or I'm failing as a coach, or I'm failing as whatever it is in my life, and I'm going to continue to fix those things every day, every week, every year. Because your life isn't a one-day investment. Your life isn't a one-week investment. Your life is a life investment. Every day you have to invest in yourself if you're wanting to ever reap the rewards or gain any fruit from this life. So